He's talking is rude and painful. That's him. That is him. I
And
just
he
hope
wants
that
to be rich.
he wants to be rich. Okay.
He destroys everything.
Oh. But look, you can't hate people who do that, though. You know that, right? No hate, right?
No
The God in
hatred.
me is greater than the evil in him, right?
Yeah.
They tricked us into moving here because we were supposed to be getting a new lease when the new management took over. We moved in the end of August. The new management came and let us know right away that we were going to be having to buy or leave. We were not told that. We were told we were going to get a new lease, that they would extend our stay here, and we wouldn't have anything to worry about. Well, 2 weeks after we got here, the story was different. The new owner was very adamant about what he wanted. He wanted us to buy or leave. There was no rent or rent to own. It was buy or leave.
Okay, the new owners came in September, I believe. When they came here, it stunned everyone that lives in the community because of what they was asking for the price. They jumped from one price and jumped out to another price from $389 to $900 they wanted us to pay. And like I explained and I said, the majority of the people that is homeowners are over 65.
I moved into my new location year before last in June. And then when it comes to a new year of last year, 2021, it's like now I had to move again. I had to pay $3,200 to move. Like, money don't grow on trees. And it's hard because that's a lot of pressure that a person who get a once a month paycheck.
Well, this is happening at Florida Sun Estates, formerly known as
Meadows Mobile Home Park.
the Meadows Mobile Home Park.
The Meadows Mobile Home Park back in September not only did rent more than double, tenants are no longer allowed to re-sign new leases.
The feelings that I had when I first walked into the Meadows was, there's something going on here. I want to know more. It was obvious, though, that a lot of people had left. That first time I went out there in early November. Just stuff everywhere. And it was right after it had rained for a week, so it was just all wet. Wet toys, wet couches, trash bags full of people's belongings on the side of, their driveways. People don't just up and leave like that during a pandemic when it's getting cold, up like near the holidays. They just don't. As a children and families reporter, when you see those kinds of things, you just zone in, like this is it.
Now, state records show the owner of the company to be Derek Vickers. His LinkedIn profile shows him to be an owner of an Orlando-based real estate group.
So this is new stuff that he's filed for?
No, this is just, so like, if you can see here, Tampa Sun Estates, University Sun Estates, CP Sun Estates, North Orlando Sun Estates, Florida Sun Estates. This is all him.
It's a really sad situation because, like I said, the housing crisis is one that's facing communities throughout our state and indeed throughout the nation. And for this to happen, it was just unconscionable. But like I said, there was nothing we could do as a city to remedy the situation other than the kind of assistance that we did give and continue to give for those who have been impacted by this. I found out actually about the situation through the local newspaper. There was an exit from the mobile home park that children were using to get to a nearby school, and it was a safe route to school. The teachers and staff would walk them home in the afternoon, and they closed that gate, and it forced the kids to have to travel a very unsafe route to get to school, and which I felt was unconscionable on behalf of the new property owner.
When they shut down the gate to the school, they did not give us notice. They didn't give anyone notice. They just did it. When we found out, of course, the parents, the grandparents, they complained because Roberts Avenue is a very dangerous street. Being that it's not patrolled by TPD or the sheriff's officers that much, people tend to drive 50, even 60 miles an hour.
But they want the children to get out in the cold rain, sleet, hail, whatever it is, to go to school, to walk out there. The kids are playing along the street. Suppose the one miss and push another one out in the street. It's going to be on them.
So this is a closed ecosystem that I keep on my desk that I really like. It's a completely sealed glass ball within which we've got some salt water, some shrimps swimming around, and some algae and all that, and it all feeds together. So the algae produces the oxygen that the shrimp need, the shrimp produce the CO2 that the algae needs, and it lives for years like this as this closed ecosystem. And it kind of ties into something that I try to teach to my students as well, is kind of about the interconnectedness of everything, and whether you want to look at it with an individual and their interconnectedness to their own family, their immediate siblings, their community in which they live, or the place in which they work, or the county or the state or the country, and obviously within our own planet Earth, which is a closed system, and how it all fits together. Your health, how much that's driven by the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, the job that you have, the access that you have to healthcare issues, and how those policies, whether they are immediate within your household, how mom treats dad, and whether there's domestic violence, matters in terms of your health, as well as what the policies are on a county, state, or federal level, and how those are going to impact the health, even down to the level of the small microorganisms that are in this closed ecosystem. When somebody is disrupted from their life, suddenly lose their home, have incredible health consequences. Boy, the list could just go on for so long. Among the initial ones are, what is my priority? My priority is finding a place to live that is safe and secure for myself and my family. And issues like taking my blood pressure pill, my diabetes pill, all of those sorts of things become much lower priority, as they would for anyone. They would for me, and for anyone if suddenly that life was disrupted. It causes problems of aggravation of mental health problems. Your depression, your anxiety, your stress management, all of those things can get a whole lot worse. The impact on children, I think, is incredibly magnified. When you have a child who may be 8 or 10 years old, and they are disrupted both from the anxiety of their home life. Mom's worried, dad's worried, etc. This is not suddenly we're moving to Boston because dad's got a better job. It's mom and dad don't know what's going to happen. And that child sees that disruption in the family. That then is going to mean also they're going to lose their friends. They're going to lose their teacher that they got to know about, their community they're involved with. And so we see a whole lot of what some people call acting out, but it's very real. I mean, the child who feels that their whole life is turned inside out is going to have health impacts, it's going to have educational impacts, and long-term psychological impacts.
To be honest, I never thought I was going to be driving a school bus. But I love my job. It's fun. You can get to be a mother, a counselor, a teacher, and meet different types of students and understand them. I have 6 kids of my own. That means when you have 6 different personalities in your house, that means you could be prepared for anything. They used to always go outside to be in the yard and play and do stuff. We used to have different events. But now since we moved into an apartment complex, it's harder. Cause you got to go up and downstairs. You got to deal with neighbors. You have to try to find a place you can play, to interact with different friends when you left one community with different friends. And it's hard for my kids because you got to adjust. And not only them, I have to adjust. When I have to adjust to this location, it's hard because I have to drive almost 30 minutes to get to work now. Usually I have to drive 10 minutes. When I tell you some nights tears came in my eyes, because I'm like, okay, I got to stay strong. I got to see what I need to do. I have to do this for my kids. And it devastated them because they were like, Mom, why we got to move? Why this, why that? Like, you got to sit your kids down and explain everything to them. Like, this is what's going on. This is how life and the world works. You know, you have to go by the big boss's rules or be homeless.
I didn't get to be 74 years old for nothing. You know, I done learned a lot down the line. Raising 4 kids, 16 grands, and 51 great grands. So you know that I'm blessed. I moved out here in 1988. I had to pay $99 for lot rent, $99 deposit, and $99 for lot rent. And when I moved out here, the place was beautiful. It was suburban estate during that period of time. And it stayed suburban estate for a good while. It's just so much that's going on right now with me as far as my heart. And I can't deal with a whole lot of things, so they issued me a life vest. I've been wearing it for a whole year. So if I walk out the door right now and I don't have that life vest on, I could die. So you see why I can't go through all of this. I will not be stressed out about no one. No one. About any situation, I would not be stressed out. I can't.
One of the things that we've learned as Black people is to turn our community into our family. And so that's looking out for one another. That's disciplining another child if we need to. That's loving on another child if they need that love. That's, you know, just that idea of community that we were forced to have. And that's, you know, when I go back to Frenchtown, but my dad tells me stories about how the Frenchtown community was the Frenchtown family. And that's what ties us to it to this day, 4 or 5 generations down. And so the Meadows became a family for a lot of people. I mean, of course it had its violence, of course it had its problems, crime or whatever, but that's poverty also. But they survived it because of the family aspect that they had in there, which was probably the only thing that got a lot of them by, because it was still that family and that community. And so, like, as the Black community, again, like we survive off of family, we survive off community. Even when we have nothing, at the end of it, we still have that. Unlike most cultures, unlike most races for that extent, we don't have anything to attach ourselves to. You know, like a lot of Asian Americans say, hey, I'm from this part of China, or I'm you know, Mongolian. Europeans can kind of stretch back to say, this is the place where I'm from. For most of us, the place where we're from is that community where our family grew up. That's our culture almost, because we were stripped away from, you know, our other cultures before. So we kind of turned where we grew up and where our families grew up into our like native land. And to strip it away, to gentrify it, to do things to it because of capitalism, that's the biggest pain that we have. And the problem is, even people that look at it like us don't necessarily understand that.
Taking a closer look at this issue, 19% of Leon County households pay rent above their means. Rental costs have skyrocketed this past year by as much as 30% in other parts of Florida. State leaders will consider a few bills on housing issues when they return to Tallahassee for session next week.
So are you saying that the city could not pass any tenant landlord ordinances that would prevent this kind of thing happening on the local level?
Not at all, because it's an issue that's regulated by the state of Florida.
So do you think that the city is spending enough on affordable housing? It looks like you guys are spending about 6.4 million on housing and community resilience, but you're spending like 62 million on the police department. So
There's no comparison between the two, Sarah. Law enforcement, we are committed to keeping our community safe. And we spend a budget that is appropriate for law enforcement. And if what you're suggesting is that we take money from the law enforcement budget to put it in the housing, I wouldn't agree with that. The housing is not the purview of the city of Tallahassee, although we do spend money towards housing and we support those organizations that provide housing. But local governments, to provide housing ourselves is not the purview of city government.
Right. So I guess what I'm asking is, why isn't the city providing more funding to these groups?
We provide as much as we can. Sarah, we are required by law to have a balanced budget at the end of the fiscal year. And there are lots of services that the city of Tallahassee has to provide. We've got safety. Again, we have infrastructure needs. We have city employees that have to be funded, their salaries and benefits. So there are other issues that we have to deal with. But like I said, housing is not a primary mission of local government, of city and county government. So that's why we have to depend on our partnerships with those organizations who have that as their primary mission.
You guys just spent $20 million for the stadium upgrades to Doak.
And $10 million for FAMU and $1 million for Tallahassee Community College. I don't get your point. What's your point in bringing that up?
Well, I'm just saying that you guys are spending 64 million on police, and yet it seems like they're saying that,
I think you're convoluting issues that one has nothing to do with the other. We're going to maintain a safe and secure community.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add or that I didn't ask you about?
Yeah, I think we've covered it. I think the message needs to be clear, though, that the city is doing all that we can do to address this housing crisis within the limits of our budget. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to partner with those organizations in the community that have low income and affordable housing as their mission. And we will do that certainly within the limits of our budget.
All of these buildings that you see, these hotels, these government buildings that are empty could be turned into shelters, could be turned into housing. You're going to give a stadium $27 million and then come say, you don't have the purview, you have the purview for football. You're talking about a sport over human lives. You're talking about a college that makes millions and millions of dollars off education and alumni donations. But you're telling the people who vote for you, I can't do nothing for you. I can't do nothing for you, but vote for me still, because I'm a politician, but I'm also here to serve. What are you serving? Hot dogs at the games? Are you serving parking spaces at the games? Who are you really taking care of but yourself?
It's not good enough for me to say that we're preempted by the state, our hands are tied. Like, I understand that. I understand what the laws are. I understand if people buy certain property and zoning is already set in those areas that you can't lower the zoning, you can't stop people from buying private properties. I understand that. But when you do have an opportunity, when you do have some leverage to try to do something about it, you should do it.
When we focus on issues like economic development, and who's going to argue that economic development is a bad thing, creating jobs, increasing a tax base, et cetera, for a society, that we've got to look at the the longer term and broader implications of that, of what that means to those that are displaced by economic development. There's profits to be made here, et cetera, but we've got incredible victims that are victims of someone else's profits. And that's the part that we've got to wrestle with better as a society. We've got to make sure that our laws, that our regulations protect those more vulnerable members.
I think the root of the behavior of anybody like Mr. Vickers is capitalism, and the sickest form of capitalism that you can stomp on anybody that's in your way as long as you make a buck. And when you think like that, and when you behave like that, and you don't care about who you affect, that mentality is dangerous. That is very dangerous. And I giggle, as a form of nervousness pretty much, because it's what we're seeing happening. And we talk about violence, natural disaster, or whatever. Like that's a dangerous person who don't care who they affect as long as they're making a dollar or a lot of dollars on the back of other folks.
Where is all this going to end? I don't know. But like I said before, God is in the midst of all of this. That's why they came down so quick, because God he sees wrongdoing here, and he's not going to let that go. No way. And I feel like I'm not representing myself. I'm representing all of the homeowners that live out here. I'm not just thinking only for myself, because there are other people out here that's in the situation that I'm in, and I will not work and have worked over 30-some years of my life for somebody to come and just take it all up. And I said, I am not leaving. And I meant every word I said. I meant every word I said. If they had to put me out on the street, call the sheriff, that was the only way they're going to get me out of here. But I was not going to leave by word of mouth. And I know they got a heart up there somewhere. And it's going to come back, it's going to go down lower than this. It's going to go down lower than 545. If I have anything to say about it, it really will.
What I learned for this experience is don't get no mobile home in the mobile park. That's the truth. That's the truth. Because it's like you playing Monopoly. You roll the dice, you don't know where you land at. Because if this person got a hotel on this property, you have to pay up. That means you have to pay or you have to move.
I've decided that from now on, I'm going to bring the heat to the cold weather. And that's a promise. Every time someone in the city, someone on the council, someone does something that does not help people, support people, they're going to hear my mouth very loudly. Very loud. This shouldn't happen again. You all should see the next time this is happening before it happens. And the next time you should go to the people, not the management. You should know what to do ahead of time before it happens. No more being quiet. I'm sorry. I can't do it. My grandchildren are growing up here and going to school here and living here and having to deal here. I still work, play, live, and worship in the city of Tallahassee. I do all those things in this city and spend my money. Oh, yeah, they're going to hear my big mouth. Yeah.